Thank you, Oliver.
Thank you.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us for this second keynote of today. The COVID-19 pandemic has changed the world significantly. Being part of the essential chemical network, most productions were kept running while limiting people in the sites to the most critical personnel. Many employees of the companies have moved to work from home. At the same time, customer industries as well as supply chains globally have been affected by the economic situation due to the pandemic. Today, we have the honor to hear from Mr. Hanno Brummer from Covestro on this second keynote of the day. Covestro is a chemical materials manufacturer producing mainly polyurethanes and polycarbonates for a variety of industries, such as transportation, construction, and electronics. Mr. Brummer is the current Senior Vice President as the Global Head of Production and Technology in the business unit Polyurethanes, being responsible for more than 15 production sites across the globe, several thousand employees, and an integrated asset base for the production of MDI, TDI, and polyethers. Mr. Brummer is also a member of the Industrial Advisory Board of EIIL, European Institute for Industrial Leadership, developing talent for the industry. He will tell us today about Covestro having launched its new company vision on becoming fully circular, which sets a clear path moving towards and shows a long-term strategic program embracing circular economy guides through cyclicality. Thank you for joining us today, Mr. Brummer, and the floor is yours now.
Thank you very much for the kind introduction, Walid, and welcome everybody to my presentation. I'm very happy to have been invited for this presentation today. So I'd like to share with you some thoughts about what does it mean working in and beyond the pandemic at Covestro. As mentioned, I'm globally responsible for a large production network.
Sorry, I will need to ask you to share again the presentation.
Oh, sorry. Sorry about that.
Yes, it's perfect.
Can you see it now? Okay, sorry about that.
No.
Okay. As I said, I'm responsible for the global production network of the so-called polyurethanes. And of course, we have seen a very strong effect, both from the pandemic, but also, of course, the consequences on the economics due to COVID-19. If you're interested also beyond what a production head globally does, here you see my credentials. So just visit my Instagram page and then you will see also what else is going on in the world. So today, I want to share again a little bit about the situation. Covestro is a global manufacturer's company of materials for the polymers market, raw materials for polyurethanes and polycarbonates. These are materials which are all over your daily life, and I will give you some examples in a second. Just to give an idea what kind of company we are, you see we have roughly 12 billion sales. We are, as you see, in all the regions. Our headquarter is in Germany. Our origin is also German, but you see also from the sales spread that we have a global reach across the major regions. As a production companies, we are operating production sites around the world. Our major sites are in the middle of Germany, in North Rhine-Westphalia, where we have 3 sites, one in the north. We have also major hubs near Houston, in Baytown, and near Shanghai in Shaojing, and smaller sites in many other areas, including Mexico, Japan, Thailand, Spain, Antwerp, mid and larger sites. And we serve multiple industries. As I mentioned, this is not just only one product for one industry. Our materials or raw materials are then made into, first of all, foams, either 3-dimensional foams that you know from insulation, that you know from furniture, soft or hard foams, or into clear plastics, wherever you see clear plastics, or into coatings. And therefore, we serve all the industries that you see, whether it's transportation from auto cars or rail cars, into the construction because of insulation, of course, into the furniture market for soft foam and cushions, but also the so-called clear plastic on your iPhone, the screen on your TV, window shields made out of clear plastics, up to stadium roofs are made from polycarbonates. And many, many other applications, including very special ones like in medical, which of course even lately have had increased demand. So what does it mean for a company like this, the current situation? We always speak about the lockdown, and we have to look at the lockdown from 2 angles. First of all, of course, our customers, the final consumers, are being locked down. Who is locked down will not go out and will not go be shopping. Also due to the uncertainty, people might not want to go shopping. Even the discussion about if we could still produce cars, would people now buy cars and invest a lot of money with a lot of uncertainties? But secondly, also the industry producing this have been locked down due to the situation. We don't produce the final product. We make the chemical raw material, and then a producer makes the foam that goes, for instance, into a furniture. And you've seen that. Car industry, furniture industry, apparel industry have been completely shut down due to the situation. So the entire world, and that's also different, let's say, versus 2008, where a financial, let's say, restriction or a financial constraint happened, it was formally really a full lockdown. But it also means that everything around moving, so things to be moved and people to be moved and goods to be moved, were very restricted up to lockdown. And we saw that in the chemical industry very widely, when the entire supply chain, which is a highly complex structure, was suffering directly, for instance, when the pandemic started in China, that from rail cars, from truck drivers, all of this entire system could not happen anymore. And then, of course, the entire system goes into a lockdown. At the same time, and we should keep that in mind, we hear that governments are very active. Governments are supporting the situation very strongly in the sense of supports, funds, all kinds of aids, which are at, I don't know how you see it, at quite some astronomical numbers here and there, hoping that we can recover the economy. But of course, the big question remains, what does it mean for the future? Because we haven't seen a situation like this in our history. Secondly, and that was also a very important learning, when you look at the lockdown of the supply chain, societies realized, we all talk about always that the energy network is crucial. And we all know what it would mean if electricity in a continent would fail for more than a week. On the other hand, many people were not so aware that also the base chemical network is a very critical network, keeping a lot of things running without being, let's say, directly seen. I give you an example. We are producing caustic soda. We are also producing hydrochloric acid. That's a versatile chemical which goes into many, many applications, from household cleaning, from disinfections, many plastics, cleaning water, steel industry, all these basic chemicals. And if that network, either due to the supply chain or to the production, cannot be maintained, we have serious effects. And that's why also very quickly it was realized how crucial it is to keep also the base chemical industry running, to keep the network and not make the situation more difficult than it is already. We're talking in this situation, of course, about uncertainty and planning horizon. And everybody says already, yes, also 2020 without Corona would have been a typical year. We are in the phase of uncertainties. We talk about it, uncertainties in financial markets. We talk about long-term planning, about ecosystems. But of course, the current pandemic has really forced that situation to an even more critical point. Uncertainty levels have really risen. Who can really predict what and when things will happen, when things will be recovered? And certainly also, what does it mean? Will they recover just to where they were, or will they recover to the so-called new normal? And if you spare the time and go into the internet, you will pretty much find any scenarios that you can think of. And anybody has no crystal ball, because again, there's so much uncertainty. What will it be? Will the world in 5 years be the same? Or will it, like we've experienced it in the banking sector, be very, very different? And some industries we know, like the airline, like the travel, like personal behaviors, they might change forever. We might look back in so many years, or our children might look back saying, yes, 2020 has changed the way we travel, has changed the way we interact. We will find out, but certainly uncertainty will remain. And what does it mean for just working, and also working in Covestro, but of course in other companies? As I mentioned, we kept essential production running. What does it mean? In our production plants, they are the production people themselves. There are people who are crucial to keeping production running, like the maintenance, like the quality labs, the safety departments. All those people were kept working under very, very strict conditions. So from temperature controls at the gates, wearing masks all the time, having shift relievers between groups without meeting each other. So like we do now, virtually on video. So making sure if there was an infection, you would maybe affect one group of 6 to 8 to 10 people, but not the entire site, again, to keeping things running. A very difficult situation. And I must say, I have high respect for the people who keep everything running, who work under these very strict, difficult situations, on top of what that all means for their families. We have other areas like laboratories, which are essential, which cannot be work from home, but have to be worked in the plant. And those were essentially shut down. That the development work can wait. Yes, it's not for day-to-day production. On the other hand, if you lose a year of development, you year of development. So in the end, this will all be things that have also experienced a pause and will have to catch up. And then, of course, there's the big topic of working from home. Even for me, in my job, you can imagine I have a lot of travel to do. And I have been pretty much working in my home office the last 14 weeks or so. A very big difference, but again, compared to the production personnel, to the people in the plants, I would say a rather easier change. On the other hand, we see there's in all these difficulties, in all that situation, there have been some very nice positive developments, like we do today. Digital tools have really emerged. So who was ready for digital, who had a good base, who had the good knowledge, their things really developed. This is from everything we used before, like chats or video meetings, but they have really fostered. Big meetings are pretty much now happening online. And to be honest, is it not even easier to attend an online meeting versus to travel around the world? Not even talking about the CO2 footprint, not talking about the cost, but also contracts. Systems are available, so you can sign legally binding contracts electronically. Not everywhere the legal situation allows that still, but many, many are. And a lot of things in a company like us needs approval for some financial or any kind of things. This has been all moved, of course, to electronic, and it doesn't need people running around for a signature anymore. So when you look at nature, when you look at our environment, it has certainly benefited. The carbon footprint also of the Covestro people has definitely decreased. And some people even speak about we have gained flexibility. I spoke to people saying, working at home means for me, I can actually take a run at 2 p.m. in the afternoon and then have the meetings to 7 p.m. I don't have to take a second pair of clothings to work. So for me, that's flexibility. I don't spend time in the subway in the morning or in the car in the rush hour. But let's not forget, not everybody has the same situation. Not everybody is as fortunate as we are, having an own home office, people trying to be in small family settings. This time has been very, very difficult and needed a lot of constraints and also put stress on people. And last but not least, one of also the work I'm doing a whole lot is on personnel, working with people, developing people. And I must say, yes, the digital technique has advanced, but to have a face-to-face meeting on personal interaction is hard to exchange. In that time, we also have launched our new company vision, which is that Covestro will fully embrace circular economy. And I want to just very briefly give you an idea what this is about. On our long-term sustainability strategy, we decided as Covestro to embrace this as a long-term strategic program by we use alternative raw materials. Carbon is essential for the polymer industry and will most likely remain essential. But we cannot afford just take carbon out of the ground, making polymers, and later on when they are wasted or incinerated, they produce CO2. We need to bring the carbon back. And we have shown that we can bring the carbon back in the form of CO2 into matrices. We will be looking very much deeper into recycling. So taking materials and bringing them back and making new materials out of them. This, of course, can all be done with joint solution. That means maybe a polyurethane player can also use a polymer from a different industry as their raw material. It's not only everybody for him or herself, but it's also about creating networks, creating joint solutions across the industry. And last but not least, of course, energy that we use needs also to be based on renewable, so having a positive CO2 balance. And we like to paint that picture that I show here, saying on the left side, you see depicted a tree. This is how nature does it. Nature produces carbon products, they deteriorate, but in the end, it's able to recycle them, the carbon, either through the air or through the soil into new carbon. It's not like that a leaf becomes a leaf, but the carbon stays in the cycle. And that's exactly also our philosophy to saying we can use the end products and bring them back either through energy, either to breaking them up in other plastics, or even breaking them down to raw materials or so-called small molecules, and then bring them back into the value chain. If we can close that cycle, we will have really what we target as a company to reduce our impact on the environment. So now you ask yourself, is that maybe not a bad timing in the middle of a storm, launch a new vision? But actually we feel like timing is of the essence, and we are determined to have this vision for a long-term plan. And even, or you could say, although we have a situation like this, it is even more important not to change the plan, because a long-term vision is a long-term plan that you want to pursue. This is not about 1, 2, 3 years, but this is what should guide you. And probably even, let's say, the bigger the storm is, the better is that you know your long-term goal. To summarize that, what does working for us mean? And sorry, due to the time, I could only cover a few aspects, but we are developing into new normal. Of course, just as the virus moves from east to west, it's also moving from east to west, that also our plants, our production comes into a new normal. We see a very strong focus on digital tools, and that will definitely continue. I talked about the financial burden, where we will all see it. We will see it, the next generation will see it. What does it all mean? All the decisions being taken in 2020, and the sustainability debate has a new momentum. And again, we feel this is really crucial. We should not be tempted by saying energy is so cheap, we should leave the path of renewable energy right now. It is very important, if societies, economies recover, we really do it the way we should be doing is, and this is fully circular, fully sustainable, and that's why we feel our company vision fits right also in these difficult times. Thank you very much for your attention. This was an overview, and as I understand, I'm happy to take now questions.
Thank you very much, Mr. Brummer, for the very interesting talk and for explaining us so with the time you had. We have some questions from the audience already. I'd like to ask you, the first question is, from your perspective, what was the most difficult measure to implement in Covestro's working methods during this pandemic?
Most difficult. Again, to implement the measures is one thing. We were very determined. We very quickly shut down our plants and limited to, as I said, to the most essential people. The most difficult, and I've talked with people, I've dialed into control rooms, into maintenance shop. The most difficult for the people was really to making this happen. Just imagine a maintenance work where you work together on an apparatus in a plant. It's not easy to keep 1.5 meter distance, or working with a mask in that situation where it's also body constraining. That's why I said we were very determined to have those measures in place, but it put extra strain and extra effort on the people to realize them every day. But in the end, it has paid off. The numbers in Covestro are very, very low on infections, so we feel like we did the right choice to be as consequential as we were.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Another question is regarding CO2 emissions and renewables. How does Covestro help Germany towards reaching the goals of the Paris Agreement and the newly published long-term strategic plan for climate change from the UN, and also regarding the European Green Deal?
Yes, we feel that our vision is fully aligned, because when you look at the vision about the so-called Green Deal or becoming fully circular, in our long-term vision, where we have, let's say, renewable energy from wind, and we've just signed last year one of the biggest contracts with a wind manufacturer, then using renewable electricity, making products that in the end we can take out and bring them back on recycle, either recycle the CO2 or recycle the polymer chemically. In the end, we will have a net zero emission on CO2. So we are fully aligned with what also European and other states are targeting to keep, let's say, to get the CO2 back in balance. And that's the crucial thing. We have to keep it back in balance. Right now, we are not in balance.
When you say in the end, what do you mean by end? Do you mean a particular year?
It's a long-term vision. You cannot nail it down to say, okay, this is a 5-year plan. It's a long-term vision. You know that, for instance, the European Union has put up the 2050 goal. So this all talks about, nobody knows exactly, will it be 2050 exactly, or plus minus. I think it's important, you have to start now. You think 30 years is a long time, but on the other hand, we know how long developments take, how long chemical processes, let's say if we want to make now polyurethanes fully out of recycled materials, these are processes that have to go from the lab scale to the pilot scale. This will take several years. So we said 30 years sounds long, but actually it's not long. If you look at process development, we need to start now to have a long-term plan and to be successful.
Thank you. Your opinion on giving people flexibility on choosing their place of work, is that something that we can expect to continue in the future, even after we are back to a second normal?
You talk about choosing the place, meaning home office or office. Yes, also these things will definitely continue. We already spoke about that even if we are limiting, let's say, the pandemic level to one lower, so bringing more and more people, let's say also the process development people in the plant, we're still asking people who can work from home, they should work from home. So I expect that for a very long time to continue. There's no reason also for a person like me to drive into the office to have phone calls all day. I might as well, if I can handle, do this from home. And again, we have established many of these things. So yes, I think some things will change also in the long run.
Thank you. And one last question. What is your opinion about the new logistic challenges? For example, shorter supply chains. How can a chemical company like Covestro cope with the new situation?
We have very good, stable, strong supply chains. Of course, we have to cope with the situation. We've seen that countries which used to work very closely together, for instance, in Europe, have for the time being, for good reasons, shut down their borders. But we expect those things to work together again. There will be a question, how much will maybe be shipped around oceans in the future? Maybe some things will get more regional. On the other hand, we believe in the global setup. We already have hubs in the regions, so to be ready for the regions, also for local supply, and we feel this will continue. It's also a matter, again, of balance, supply and demand, and have a stable supply chain, so means how much you keep in storage and how much flexibility you have the supply chain. I would expect also areas, I don't know, in Asia or in Europe working even closer together to have one common goal, one common strategy, let's say on rail or other long-term sustainable transportation systems.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Rumer, for taking the time to be with us and for answering all the questions. For our audience on that side, please don't forget to continue. Our upcoming keynote is entitled "The New Normal of Work," presented by Diogo Mendonça, Operations Director at B Engineering. Thank you all and see you soon.
Thank you very much for listening. Thank you, everybody.